Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Simple C10. It is a beautiful day outside. The birds are chirping. It's a perfect day to hop back on the Lucky build. We're going to get a lot done today on this truck, but first I wanted to update you on some stuff, some new parts, some new merch, some stuff that I'm excited about. As you can see, I've got this simple pocket tee right here. It's a great shirt to wear out in the shop. It's a great material. It's a thicker material than my past shirts. If you bought some of those, this is a Comfort Colors. It's got Simple C10 on the back. You can throw little bolts, whatever in there. I've got my mic in there. Works perfect. Great way to support me. Simple C10 pocket tee. I've also got the Simple C10. This is the community built truck shirt. So this is really cool. Love this shirt. I had a hoodie on in a couple of my videos and some of you commented, hey, when is that going to be a shirt? I'll have these available. They're ready to go. They'll ship out the day after you order them, but order one of these shirts. And I also have some stickers. Check out the new stickers. And these stickers, this is the design of the shirt. And I've got another shirt that I'm picking up next week that's going to have Crockett on it like this. So order both of these shirts. If you're going to one of the shows this year, I'm going to have the shirts available. I'll have these stickers going out in all the orders that are placed or in the sticker pack as well. Hey, I'm getting geared up for show season. I'm getting stocked up on simple clips, simple bores, simple guides, all my merch, stickers, all that kind of stuff, ready to hit up all the shows in Middle Tennessee and in Georgia. And I'm going to Dino's Get Down. Just really excited for what this show season has in store. So stop by my booth. If I'm at a show, stop by, give me a high five. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to check your truck out. But yeah, I'm excited about show season. Wrap up on your truck. I know it's getting grind time. A lot of you guys are ordering parts, getting ready to go and hit up some of these shows. So thank you again so much for your support. I appreciate it. A ton of you have reached out recently, wrapping up your builds, getting the air ride kit and trying to get it on there ready for show season. So it's getting exciting. Cannot wait. Summer's around the corner. It's going to be a great year and I can't wait to meet you guys. On the last episode, we installed the VeloWorks step notch. And on this episode, we're going to install what I'm calling the simple bridge. Now, I've done bridges in the past with just some round tubing, 2 bars across, once I ran into an issue with the Watts link. So I've come up with a design that stays out of the way of the Watts link. It looks really cool and it's going to be available on the website, simpleC10.co. But we'll check that out in just a second, so stay tuned. I'm excited because we have a lot coming up. We're going to go ahead and get that rear end painted, installed in the truck, install the VeloWorks rear do-it-yourself slam kit, cut down those blocks, install those onto the trailing arms, get the trailing arms on there, mounted up to that TenWorks cross member. After we get the TenWorks arms installed, we can install the rear bag, mark with our template where to drill the holes into the frame. Once we get the bags mounted up, we can use the TenWorks rear shock relocators, and we're going to use these brackets to mount onto the trailing arm and then onto the frame, and we'll find out how best to do that. And then the back is going to be really close to being wrapped up after we get the Watts link on there, the rear cross member, and all that stuff. Stay tuned to this build because we have a lot more to come. We're going to wrap up the rear Lucky, and then it's time to really set this thing on the ground and look at how low it is, man. I'm so excited about that. Hey, if you're new to the channel, I wanted to let you know you can click the title to this video and the description will pop up and it has a link to all the parts that I'm going to talk about. Everything that I talk about today is going to be available on my website, simpleC10.co. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out on the website, message me on Facebook, Instagram, email me, however you need to contact me, and I'll make sure you get taken care of. So let's hop onto this build. I'll give you a little walk around of what we got going on and update you on some other stuff. If you've never heard me talk about TenWorks trailing arms, let me update you on a couple of the perks of getting these. First of all, there's an inch block built into the trailing arm, so that helps you get a little bit lower. They have the bag placement or the spring placement that's nice here. And then just the tubular design is awesome. It has an emergency brake cable located right there, so that just bolts into your factory setup. And they have these Johnny joints that are adjustable. These things are heavy duty. You can adjust these in and out with a lock nut here. The TenWorks rear cross member will just help us have more room behind where the Watts link is to put our EFI gas tank in the back of the truck, because this will allow us to get about another 1.5 inches right here so the gas tank will mount up correctly. And they have the rear shock relocators, and then this will help us relocate the shocks in the back because you cannot use the factory location anymore when you're going this low. It comes with some grade 8 hardware. Everything is labeled nicely. Everything that you're going to need to upgrade the rear of your truck. So these trailing arms are going to bolt directly into the trailing arm cross member that we installed in the past. That thing is sick. And yeah, once we get those bolted in, then we can put in the bags and we are cooking with grease, I think is how the saying goes. So here's a snapshot of the simple bridge right here. So it's very similar to my other design, but I've partnered with a company that is putting the angles into these brackets, and it's universal. So you can put it on your notch and then you can cut it down to the size that you need to weld into your notch. And what that does is it just stiffens up your frame right here, where usually there was that factory cross member that we removed. When we cut these down and weld them to the notch, it's going to really secure the rear of this truck. And the reason that I went with this design, with the round design on the sides, this will help the notch not go this way like that with having these dual. And the reason I wanted there to be a gap in the middle is because in the past you saw that I had the Watts link that came up and it got really close to this rear bar. So this design helps keep everything secure, but it also allows the Watts link not to hit the rear. The simple bridge is going to be available on the website. It's just going to be a 3-piece kit where you're going to get 2 90s and your straight bar long enough to where you can cut it down to whatever size that you need. You could adjust this further in to make the bend go further in and weld it in here. It's really adjustable to however you need it. The bars will have the round cut already in them, so it's kind of the contour of the bar. All you'll have to do is tack it in place and weld it, and that will be the setup. So the first thing that we're going to do, I already sprayed this down with some degreaser, and I'm going to take a wire wheel and clean it up and get a coat of paint on it. While that paint is drying, I'm going to hop on to this and go ahead and get this cut and tacked into place where we need it. Then we can install the trailing arms under the truck and then go with the VelaWorks rear do-it-yourself slam kit. We'll cut down these rear blocks just a little bit to account for the TenWorks 1-inch. And then here is the simple C10 Watts link from Alex V Metalworks. It's sitting right there, so I'm going to have that on there once we get the rear end in place. I got a couple sets of transport wheels right now. They're in really good condition. If you guys need them, they're available on the website. You can buy a set of them, pair them with the hubcaps and the simple clips and the simple bore. If you need to bore them out, got everything that you need. Also, one thing that I did last night was I painted the edge of these inner fenders blue. So whenever I'd close the hood down, I could barely see the cream sticking out, and it kind of bothered me. So I just taped it off and painted it, spray painted it. I think it turned out really good. I already like how it looks a lot better. You can't see any of the cream when you close the hood down. O'Reilly's actually matched some of the paint on the truck and mixed it in a rattle can, and I painted it with that. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. Put those mirrors on there you might have seen on the reel. Love those things. They look great on the truck. It's really coming together. I've got an event Monday, the tailgate tour in Franklin, Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm going to be going there and setting up the booth, and I'll have my truck there. But excited for show season to start again, right around the corner. It's a beautiful, beautiful day today. Oh yeah, almost forgot. I got this 1960. I showed you guys a couple photos of it on the last video, but I never did a walk around. I will make a full video that shows you all the things about it. But this thing is sick. The front end is just killer. I love it. So much character. Great patina. I'm going to be cleaning up the patina on it and putting some patina sauce on it soon just to see those colors pop. But a full video of this truck is coming soon. Got the cool spotlight on it. Interior is decent. Yeah, so stay tuned to learn more about that truck. And I'm in C10 heaven right now. Getting close on Lucky. This one's next in line. I got one that I can drive around. Thankful, blessed. Appreciate all the support. I've been loving doing this. Hey, drop in the comments. I have not named this truck yet. And usually I have a name for a truck as soon as I get it. No Association took me a while, but all the other trucks pretty much had their name as soon as I got them. But haven't really been able to settle on the name. It's a Kansas truck, so I immediately thought of the Wizard of Oz, and I thought of Ozzy, I thought of Oz, Wizard, Piggy Bank, because it's kind of that gold and white. Also looked into something to deal with Apaches because this is an Apache truck. So I've looked into what is Apache, Apache Gold, a lot of different things. So drop in the comments what I should name this truck, and who knows, maybe choose it for the name. If I do, I'll give you a shout out. Time to hop on the rear end. I sprayed it down a few times with the engine degreaser. I'm going to hit it with a drill with the wire wheel. Might get out the angle grinder with a flapper wheel on it and just clean it up. Put some of that rust restore on it first, and then some of the truck bed coating. I like to use the truck bed coating stuff. Kind of gives a nice little texture. That's what I used on the frame, so everything will match. Let's get it cleaned up. Put the final coat of the truck bed coating on there. It looks good. Again, you saw what I did. I just sprayed some degreaser on it, used a wire wheel. I don't always get them perfect. I mean, I clean it as much as I can, but you could sit there and scrub every nook and cranny. But at the end of the day, just making sure it has a good base and it's clean will work just fine. That's why I like to use the Rust Restore. Even if it's not 100% clean, the Rust Restore helps create a really nice bottom coat, and then the truck bed coating finishes it off. But I didn't spend a lot of time on this, probably about 30 minutes, just cleaning it and putting a couple coats of paint, and this will give us the finish that we're looking for. When I go to install the Watts link, I will have to grind down a little on both sides, but I like to go ahead and get everything clean right now, and then I can touch up some spots with it on the truck. And now it's time for the simple bridge. This is going to be a new bridge that I offer on the website that's going to help some of the people that follow the air ride guide with the Watts link and bagging them the way that I do. This should help you. It's hard to find a shop locally that will bend this pipe. On a 90, you either have to buy an expensive kit that comes with a notch and all that stuff, which you don't need. This just gives you a different option if you don't want to go with 2 bars. And then sometimes that Watts link gets really close to that rear bar, as you saw in my first Watts link video. This is going to come in 3 pieces, your crossbar and the 2 90-degree bars here. These will not come welded. I just went ahead and had Jason weld them up. That way you could get an idea before I install them. But all you're going to do is cut this down to size and then tack it into place, make sure everything lines up, and then weld it. These 90s will have the angle cut into them that'll weld directly on the bar. So that's one detail that I wanted you to know. But you can lay this on your notch just to get an idea of where you need to cut. We're going to measure from inside to inside on the notch and then measure this bar and then cut it down to size. So when you get this kit, the first step you will do is install this bar. So you just measure it, cut it down to size, get it into place, and just tack it in there. And then you can adjust these bars wherever you need them. You actually don't even have to trim off the edge if you just bring them further in and then tack them further in here. Or you can cut them down to however far you want this 90 to go out. It's very universal. It's going to be a quick, easy install, and the reason we want a bridge is because we had to cut out 2 of the cross members in the frame, so this will add some structural integrity to it. And I like having this extra bar like this because it'll keep the notch from kind of doing this number. If you decide to weld them together the way that I have here, all you'll do is measure and then split the difference and take the difference off of both sides, and I'll show you how to do that. We'll do that on the front, we'll do it on the back. I'm going to leave it a little bit longer, just a hair, that way it fits in there very tightly so I can kind of get an idea, and then we'll tack it in and we'll go ahead and weld the whole thing in once we have it secure. .31 5/8. Right at 28. So the front bar was 31 5/8. We're going to take that number and then subtract it from this bar here and split the difference. Day 2, got a lot of progress done yesterday. Got the simple bridge in. I'm really excited about that. That's posted on the website now. Went ahead and got that up. Had a few people asking about it. Already sold a couple, but I've got the rear end. It is clean and ready to install on the truck. We're going to get these 10Works trailing arms on the back of here, cut down our VeloWorks rear do-it-yourself slam kit. The block in the back, we're going to cut it down a little bit. I'll show you guys how I measure for scrub issues, and I'll explain scrub issues again, because a lot of people, they try to run smaller than 22-inch wheels with the 4-inch block from VeloWorks, and what happens is the U-bolts and the trailing arm sticks down lower than what the rim is. When the tire's inflated, it will be fine, but if you had a flat, then your bottom of the trailing arm is going to drag the ground, which is very dangerous. So we want to measure today and make sure with the TenWorks arms that we don't have scrub issues. I've done this in the past. You want about a 3-inch block on top of the TenWorks trailing arm, and that'll get you exactly what you need to make sure you don't have scrub issues on 22s. If you're running 20s, then you'll want to cut it down even further, maybe to 2 inches, or if you have smaller than that, you'll want to go with an 1 or 2 inch block. And in some cases, if you're running stock wheels, the actual TenWorks trailing arm may be enough of a block built in that'll work. If you're running a factory trailing arm, then you'll just add 1 inch to all the measurements I just said. But if you have any questions about scrub issues, let me know. You can message me. I try to help you with that. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at the TenWorks trailing arm, and then we will figure out how much of the VeloWorks block to cut out. Before we look at that though, let's check out this simple bridge. Turned out awesome. I ground down the welds a little bit and just put the same truck bed coating on it. And it looks great. Again, this is available on the website, simpleC10.co. All right, back to the TenWorks trailing arms here. So again, they have the Johnny joints that bolt into your factory cross member or the TenWorks trailing arm cross member. They are adjustable. You can screw those in and out for different lengths, and that goes pretty deep into the trailing arm, so there's a lot of adjustability. And then it has the bag placement kind of bracket or the spring. It sits nicely there, protects it. And then here's where I was talking about, it has an inch drop built into it. So what I'm going to do is take a measuring tape, and I'm going to measure the distance from top and bottom of here, and then measure what the factory trailing arm is, and we'll know how much of a block has been built into it. And then we can subtract that from the 4-inch that we normally need, and then we can cut that VeloWorks block to the exact height that we need so we don't have scrub issues and we can get the maximum drop. One thing I didn't mention before, this comes with a panhard bar bracket, so you can actually get the panhard bar that bolts into their mini notch. I usually just leave that on there. You could cut it off if you want to, but it doesn't get in the way. I'll leave it on there and it's fine. Measuring this, we have right at 4 1/4 height. So I'm going to go measure the factory trailing arm, see how tall it is, and we'll subtract that from 4 1/4. Right at 2 3/4. Factory trailing arm was 2 3/4. If you subtract 2 3/4 from 4 1/4, you actually get 1 1/2. So this is more of like a 1 1/2 inch drop. So we'll take 1 1/2 off of the total height of the VeloWorks block, and that should get us exactly where we need so we don't have scrub issues. Here's the VeloWorks do-it-yourself slam kit, the rear block, and as you can see, that's 4 1/2. So if we take 1 1/2 off of 4 1/2, we need to cut this down to 3 inches. All right, now it's time for the TenWorks trailing arms. Man, I just love looking at these things. They're sick. TenWorks makes some of the best parts. Just the quality, the welds. I mean, check that out. Golly. Wish I could weld like that. Every single part, even their shock relocation, just the quality. They look great powder coated. This is a matte powder coat from Tennessee Powder Coatings. They do a great job. If you are in the Tennessee area or anywhere surrounding, I recommend Tennessee Powder Coating. They're on Instagram. The TenWorks trailing arms are going to come with all the hardware that you need to install these. They're going to come with 2 bolts, 4 washers, and 2 lock nuts. It's also going to come with the longer bolts that can hold your bag or your springs into place. All right, I'm getting ready to install the TenWorks trailing arm on here. And one thing I wanted to talk about is what hole it aligns in. So as you can see, it has 6 different holes. This cross member has more holes than I've seen in any other one. And what that's for is to adjust your pinion angle. If you're bagged or static dropped, you can move your trailing arm into different holes, and that's going to change your pinion angle on your trailing arm. So on all my trucks, I put it on the second from the bottom hole right here. That gets it very close to where the factory position was. And on these trailing arms, the way that we bag them in the factory position where the spring was, that seems to be the best bet for getting things lined up. But you can always go back if your pinion angle's off, take the bolt out and just shift it up and slide it into another hole later on. But we're going to put it in that second hole. You go ahead and use the hardware, get the trailing arms here bolted in, and then we can go ahead and put the VelaWorks blocks on it and then the rear end and jack it up to see where the airbags will mount to the bottom of the notch. The arm that has the panhard bar mount on it is going to be your passenger side. And we're just going to slide this up, get it right there where the second hole is, and go ahead and slide our hardware through there. The measurement from the center of where it bolts in to where the hole was in the factory was 42.5, and that is what I set this to right now as a starting guide. So 42.5 from center to the center of this hole where the bag is going to mount in. That's exactly where it was from the factory. We're getting ready to install the VelaWorks blocks. So I've got the rear end on jack stands right now with the jack under it to kind of straighten up the rear end. And then I'm going to put the block on top of the trailing arm and then push the trailing arm up into the rear end and slide our U-bolt through there. And we're just trying to get it hand tight right now, get everything lined up, and then we'll bolt it down nicely. There's the VelaWorks block. Right now we're just going to slide that down where it goes. And then we'll slide the U-bolt through the top and then get a bolt started on the bottom. Before I put that bolt in the bottom, we are going to be using these TenWorks shock relocation, and these go on the bottom of the trailing arm. Didn't want to forget those. And they go like this right here with the bend on the inside. That way the angle puts the shock at the right angle. Lift up on this. Set that down on there. Whenever we get ready to finalize it, we will weld this in on both sides, or the front and back, whatever you feel most confident with. That way this block doesn't move around. It should stay where it's at. I've had some people that just leaves it right there and just bolts it in real tight and it never moves. But in case you just want to make sure it doesn't, just weld it in on the front and the back or the sides, wherever you want to weld it in at. Right now this looks super close to the ground, but the angle of the trailing arm when you get it up to where it's going to mount to the frame. This part is going to be angled up away from the ground, so this isn't hurting our scrub line or anything like that. Whenever you get it jacked up like this, you can move the jack to kind of center the rear end as much as you can. That's the importance of a Watts link, is it's going to allow the rear end to be centered. But for right now, this is fine to get a better bolt in on the trailing arms. Get a socket, and then we'll tighten that down. All right, in case this is your first time installing blocks on these trailing arms, let me just give you a quick rundown. You might have heard this before. I just want to make sure everybody's clear. The reason why we use a block here is because when we're mounting the bags directly to the trailing arm, to the frame, there's only so low that we can get before it maxes out. So if I didn't have the block here, the rear end would only go to about right here. But since we have the block on there, it's going to push that rear end further into the notch, dropping the truck further down. When you have bigger wheels, that way your wheel sticks below this part of the trailing arm and the U-bolt right here. If you've got smaller wheels, that's where scrub issues come in. So if you have a flat, then this stuff is going to drag the ground. So if you have 20s, you need a smaller block. It's going to still equal out about the same, because the smaller wheels and tires you have, the lower the truck is going to be. So you don't need as much of a block. But to get the max drop that you can on 22s, you'll want to use either a 3-inch block in the TenWorks trailing arm arms, or a 4.5-inch block, which VeloWorks offers, and the factory trailing arm on there, and they're both equaling the same. If you measure from here to here, it's 7 inches. A factory trailing arm with a 4.5-inch block is going to measure right at 7 inches as well. So it's the same type of drop. I'm going to show you. I'm going to jack the rear end up, and you'll see this rear end go up into the notch. All right, perfect. I'm really happy with how this is looking right now. The placement of the notch gives me plenty of clearance here. Sometimes if you don't mount that notch in the right place, you get really close to that area. This is about as far as the bag will go. You'll need about this much room when the bag collapses. So you can see how much space that rear end goes up into the notch. There's still a little bit of clearance, so you could actually, lay this truck out further if you decided to mount the bags in a different location, not in your factory location, and it would almost lay all the way out. On this side, the hole with where the spring is almost exactly lined up with that. So that's going to help us when we put the bag in there. And that's going to be the next step, is mounting the bag to the bottom trailing arm, and then tracing the top where it is right here. We'll trace where that bag is, and then I'll show you what orientation to use to drill your holes into the frame, because we're going to drill 3 holes in the top of the frame, 2 to mount the bag, and then 1 for the air hole, a larger hole, so you can run the air fitting up through the frame as well. But man, this is looking real good. I'm getting excited now. Once I get that bag mounted in there, I'll plug them together, be able to put some air in it. And then after that, all we have left is mounting the Watts link on the frame right there. So everything is looking great. We've got the notch in, simple bridge, VeloWorks rear do-it-yourself slam kit, the rear end, the trailing arms, trailing arm cross member. We're wrapping up the back. All we have left is, next we're going to install these rear bags, and then we'll do the Alex V Watts link, the simple C10 Watts link. We'll install that back here. And then that's pretty much it on the back as far as air ride goes. But the next step, like I said, is installing these rear bags. And this is something that I don't have a video complete on with the VeloWorks notch. I have installed these on the KP Components notch. You can go back and watch the Black Dice build or the No Association build. Those are both the KP Components notch, where you took off that bottom cap and drilled out the holes. But on this, it doesn't have a cap, so we have to just mark the holes and then drill them. So the goal is to make it look like this. That is where the bag mounts directly to the bottom of the frame right here. So for that to happen, you have to basically make a template of the top of your bag and then put it on the bottom of the frame and then drill your holes. It's been a little bit tricky to do this in the past. You have to make a template of the top of the bag and then hope it aligns correctly. But I have made something that should make this a lot easier to help you guys out. Before I show you the new template, I wanted to explain again for anybody that's new why we're mounting the bag directly to the bottom of the frame. Typically, if you just get a regular air ride kit, it has a bracket on top of the bag that bolts to the bottom of the frame. That gives you a little bit of a spacer to install your air line and everything, and it bolts in. But what that does is when you have that bracket on top of the bag, then this trailing arm can only compress so far. And if you get rid of the bracket on top of it, it's going to allow you 1.5 inches more drop if you mount that bag directly to the bottom of the frame. So that's what we're going to do. And here is the guide. All right, so here it is. This is the version 1 of my rear bag simple guide. So these will be located on the website with my other simple guides. And all you're going to do is cut out these 2 templates. And this is going to allow you to line this up with the outside of the frame. And then it tells you driver side or passenger side and put this toward the front. And as you can see, these are at an angle because it's very important to drill your holes at an angle, because if you mounted them just directly on the frame like this, then these 2 bolts are going to be almost all the way against the frame and you're not going to be able to get a bolt on it. So mounting these with a slight angle will allow you to drill your 3 holes, 1 for the airline, 2 to bolt in the bag here, and everything will line up and fit great. So I'm going to show you how to use this. I went ahead and cut one out like this. This is one option that you can do. You can cut it out and then cut out the holes to know where to drill, or you could cut these out around the edges and then tape this to the bottom of the frame and just take your drill bit and just drill a small pilot hole on the 3 little X's and then go back and drill with your drill bit. So a couple different options. You can use it however you want. What we'll do now is mount the bag on the trailing arm and then jack it up to where this is against the bottom of the frame. We'll draw a line on the front of the bag where it needs to go against the frame, and then that will give us a template of where to put this on the bottom of the frame. So when you cut this out, whenever you put it on the frame, you'll be able to read the words. That's how you know you have it right. The front's going to be toward the front, and you have driver's side and passenger side on here. So let's go ahead and cut these out, mount the bags, and then make a mark, and then get these taped up ready to drill our holes. So the first step is using the hardware that was provided by Tinworks to bolt in this bag. This is a 3.5 inch by 3/8 bolt. I've got a washer and a lock washer on there. We're going to run it in through the bottom and then bolt it into the bottom of the bag. Next step is just jacking up the rear end and compressing these bags all the way. Before I do that, I'm going to align the rear end to try to get it as centered as I can. Then when I jack it up, it will compress it all the way, because I want to know kind of where are the bags going to end up when they're fully compressed. And then I'll make a mark on the front right here, and I'll know where to put the template. All right, that's fully compressed right there. I'm going to check both sides, make sure everything looks aligned. You want to do this before you drill the holes, because if you drill the holes and then the bag is kind of not centered or kind of off like this one is right here, you're too late on making your adjustment. I've got a white marker and I'm going to go right up against the edge of where that bag is right there to mark it. And that's where I know the front of my template is going to go whenever I go to drill the holes. All right. It's a tight fit to get in there to mark that bag, but we got it. As you can see right here, this is the white line that we just drew, and that's going to be exactly where we line up that. So that fits perfectly. Check that out. And the front is toward the front of the truck, and it's driver's side. So all we're going to do, I'm going to put 2 pieces of tape on the side of this and tape it on there, and then we know exactly where to drill the holes. That's exactly where it was. It was hanging off the back just a little bit right here. And boom, we're ready to drill some holes now. Now I can go ahead and get a small drill bit and drill out a pilot hole on those 3 holes. Alright, we're getting ready to install the bags on the back of the truck, but first we need to put our 90-degree fittings on there. What I like to use is this pneumatic hydraulic sealant 54540. It's from Permatex. This stuff's about $20 a bottle, but ever since I've been using this, I have way less leaks, and I really like it. You just put it on the threads and bolt it down, and that's it. No Teflon tape, anything like that, just this. I tighten those down to about to the point where I feel like I'm about to strip it. Then I tighten it a little bit more, and then I leave it. I cover all the threads with that stuff. And then as I'm tightening it down, you'll see it form a bead around the top of it. And I like to just leave it and let it dry right there with that bead across the top. I coated all the holes that we just drilled with some spray paint that should be dry here in just a minute. We'll go ahead and bolt in the top of the bags first, then jack up the trailing arms to the bottom of the bag, bolt in the bottom of the bag, and that is it. We're going to leave our jack stands underneath the trailing arms. That way all the weight of the trailing arm, the rear end, isn't on the bag stretching them. We've got our bag, and we're going to mount it to the bottom of the frame here. I've got some inch bolts with lock washers. You can use a washer on it as well. What I like to do is just drop in both of my bolts into the holes. Go ahead and slide your 90 in and come over to the other side and get your 2 bolts just kind of lined up and started. I didn't even realize you would be able to drill right through the paper, and it lined up perfect. That is such a time saver. That whole process has taken me hours before, and then I'd get it off a little bit or too close to the side of the frame and have to drill multiple holes, and to knock it out that quick is awesome.